with Russia, you're like, dude, Russia? Seriously? Oh, we are Russian, blah blah blah. We are Russian, and we must find this kingdom of crystals and the skulls, and I mean, they got Kate Blanchett, but it just seems like desperate. It just seems like they were like, we can't do Nazis because it's 1957. So who can we do? Well, we can do the Russians. Somebody's got to chase and shoot at our guys. We've got to have the Indiana Jones running from, we got to have Last Crusade-ish, Raiders of the Lost Ark again. We've got to have an entity of evil that's trying to kill them. So we get Russians. Are you serious, dude? Russians? This sounds like fucking, Rambo or something like when Rambo was being tortured by the Russian, or like the Russian. It just seems so, like, bad. And I love Kate Blanchett as an actress, and it's very interesting that they're picking her, but it just reeks of, like, this just seems like Last Crusade, but with a kid, and with Russians instead of Nazis. And it just, I don't care about this movie. I think it's surmised in that sentence of, it was either this or nothing. And it was the thing of, well, there was other things you can do. You could have made a really great Indiana Jones sequel, and I really feel like there was a better story that you could have got out of this, and I just feel like they just kind of went back into autopilot and went, okay, well, let's get Shia LaBeouf to be his son. Why? So she had a kid, they had a kid, she didn't tell him about it, and then he has to, as horrible as this is, I'm still going to bring it up, but, like, of course Shia LaBeouf is like this kind of James Dean motorcycle badass. I'm sorry, but Shia LaBeouf is not a motorcycle badass. I don't think Shia LaBeouf is anything connected with 1950s, and I'm sorry to say this, but I don't see, like, I don't get why Indiana Jones has to have a son. I don't understand why he has to have a son. I mean, it could have been a daughter, and I don't get why you have to bring family into things like this. This just seems like it made sense that it was like, well, they couldn't get Sean Connery, he retired, and he doesn't want to come back. So you're like, you got to put somebody with Indy. And you got to bring the youth in there. So let's bring in Shia. I don't care. I just don't care. I mean, I look at these photos and I see a time. I think the best thing you could say about most movies is that when they were released outside of a time thing where it was like, the producers weren't looking at, they were looking, like when Raiders of the Lost Ark, even Temple of Doom, say what you want about Temple of Doom, I mean, Short Round wasn't based on some other person. It wasn't based on, like, oh, that's the kid. I mean, maybe the kid was in the Goonies, or they were, like, I think, like, they weren't looking at the cute kid of the year and saying, let's put him in. And I think, like, let's just ask ourselves, if this movie had been made right after The Sixth Sense, would it be Haley Joel Osment that played the son? If this movie was made after Home Alone, would it be Macaulay Culkin that's playing this? I just seem like that. Like, the only reason Shia is in this is because he had a really big year for DreamWorks, and they were like, let's get his son, let's put him in. And you know what, Shia's a funny guy, and he's cool, but it's like putting him in an Indiana Jones movie is like putting yourself in an Indiana Jones movie. It's just like, some part of you should know is there are some places and some franchises and some things that you shouldn't be involved in. Now, saying that, I think Shia LaBeouf would make an excellent addition to Star Wars. I know Star Wars is over, not to bring that back up, but I think Shia LaBeouf, if he's in the wrong franchise, I think he'd do better in Star Wars than he ever would in Indiana Jones. And there's talk of a spin-off with him, but nobody ever does. If you gotta talk about a spin-off, it's not gonna happen. Nobody fucking makes a spin-off of a kid who's hot now. Because it's kind of like with Jack Sparrow. Like, you can't, like, Like, you can make it a spin-off with Jack Sparrow because we went in liking him. We didn't really care too much about the other people, but we ended up liking him. With Shia LaBeouf, you're like putting it before where it's like, well, he's the young one, so he's going to continue and be Indiana Jones too. It's like, no, he's not going to be Indiana Jones. There's only one Indiana Jones, and that's Harrison Ford. And this is supposed to be an Indiana Jones movie, not Indiana Jones and his little sidekick friend who's hot because he had a good year in DreamWorks. And I feel like that's the problem. If you could write this thing free of anything and just go, well, what does this have to do with Indiana Jones? And you say, well, it's about a father and his son, and they got to find a crystal skull. But from a realistic point, you already know that the crystal skull is bullshit. You already know that it's not a real thing. The Holy Grail and the Ark, and even the stones of whatever Temple of Doom, you know, with the Grail and the Ark, we still don't know. There's a mystery on those. With the stone and the whatever, the Temple of Doom, you knew that was just, they made that up. And I feel like that's the weakest of the Indiana Jones movies, was Temple of Doom. It was still fun and I enjoyed it, but it is one of the weakest of the trilogy. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, hello, who do you got in there? Steven Spielberg's wife. You know, and again, here you go. You're putting people in a movie what does this have to do with Indiana Jones? Like, at least with Last Crusade, it was like, oh, okay, it made sense. You had Sean Connery, he's a badass, and yes, Sean Connery's awesome, and Holy Grail, and it made sense, dad and son. With this, it's like, again, you've got now Indiana Jones is the dad, and the son is Shia, and it's just, and you've got a stone of Kali, you know, you've got this fake kind of thing that's kind of like, oh man, are we going to Temple of Doom again? Are we going to go, you know, I don't think Shia's got the cute factor of the short round, and it's kind of a family affair, and I really hate it when movies do this shit. I really hate it when they have to just go, let's